While I was at university, I had the opportunity to travel to Japan for a semester, and I really struggled with the idea that I would have to travel alone. Before this, I've never traveled alone. I always went with either family or with friends. It was not the idea of traveling alone to a different country or even living alone in a different country. It was specifically of going to travel alone that was really bothering me. But I always thought that going with a friend or going in a group was more fun. So in the end, I wasted a lot of time in trying to get friends. I used the first 1 or 2 months just to basically get some friends to travel with, but it never really happened. For one thing, making friends in a different country is really difficult. If any of you have lived in a different country, then you already know what I talk about. I think it's mostly cultural differences, because even the same things might end up being totally different in a different culture. For example, I was trying to be friends with a girl from Indonesia, I think, and basically we talked that we should meet in a certain place, maybe 2 weeks before meeting there. And the day before, I texted her like, okay, so when exactly or where exactly should we meet? And she said, I thought we're not going. And I was like, why? Why do you think so? And so she said, I thought we canceled it. And I was like, what do you mean? Why would we cancel it? Well, because we never really talked about it. I thought we canceled it. But I would have said it if I wanted to cancel. Oh, okay. Well, I already have plans with other people. Sorry. Okay. Then see you next time. So, well, maybe it's a cultural thing, maybe it was just her thing, I don't know. I also tried to ask a lot of other people if they wanted to travel with me, and most of them said really similar things. They either said that they already have plans with others, or they said that they've already been to the place that I wanted to visit, or they just said they don't have money for it. That was also a case with someone. And there was also a guy who straight up told me that he likes to travel alone and he doesn't want to travel with anyone else. And I was so surprised, because I always thought that going to travel was something that you go with friends or with family in a group or something. That's how it's more fun. And he just told me, well, yeah, I only travel alone. That's what I like. And that is when I started to think about the possibility of traveling alone, because if nobody is willing to come with me, then I shouldn't be wasting time, because once the time has passed, then I will not have the opportunity to see those places that I wanted to visit. But it was still difficult to accept it. So if you're in a similar situation, I advise you to just accept it as it is and go alone. It's much better to go alone than not going at all. Just because people don't want to travel with you, it doesn't mean that they don't want to be friends with you, or it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. It might be just really that they've already made plans with someone else. So after wasting 3 months, I actually decided to just go alone. I went after exams, so I basically just had 1 week and I traveled completely alone, and I was fine. And actually, now I kind of see what he meant, that boy who said that he likes to travel alone. For one thing, you don't have to take other people's needs into consideration. Everything is just the way you want it to be. You can choose the places you want to visit all on your own. Nobody is going to say that they want to go to this place or that place. You can only go to the places that you want. It can be as cheap or as expensive as you want. Maybe some people are okay with a hostel, but maybe other people want hotels or even more convenient places. Some people might want to go to fancy local restaurants, while other people might just want to go to You can can plan it ahead, or you can just be as brave or as open as you want. If you go alone, then you don't have to go to a place that you find boring, which the other person might find interesting. Also, you can change the plan whenever you want to. If you want to reschedule, you can do it. If you want to go to a different place last minute, you can do it. You can do whatever you want, and no one's gonna tell you you can't. And I found out that many places are just as interesting alone as with others. Of course, there are exceptions. Like, I went to a theme park. It's not that fun alone. It's not. You know, it's not that fun to sit on a ride and there's no one next to you you can talk to. It was also a bit weird to sit alone in a 6-person raft because of course other people wanted to sit with their friends and their acquaintances, and I was just going on alone and seeing the long queue that was waiting for that same attraction. Let's just say theme parks are not fun alone. But then again, it might be a good opportunity to find new people or becoming friends with new people. Like, there were multiple people who tried to talk to me during my travels, so you might get new friends too if you try. Just be open and try to speak to people. Maybe people who are traveling alone, they are afraid to go up to a group. So it's much easier to try to talk to new people if you're alone. There was actually a time for me when I was trying to get on a little sightseeing ship. I don't really know what it's called. And I was just standing there and waiting for the ship to arrive. And like, mind you, it was really a small ship. I think it could seat like 5 or 6 people maximum. And I was just standing there alone. And there was a random guy who just appeared out of nowhere, and then he looked at me and he looked really happy and relieved that I was there. And well, even though he was trying to speak to me in Japanese, and my Japanese is not very good, but I could kind of understand that he meant that that ship will not take one person alone, and he was alone too, and I was alone too. So both of us could go on the same ship. So because there were 2 people now, we could go on the ship, and if he was alone, he couldn't have gone. So it's also a good opportunity because you might end up helping others who are also alone. That guy was really funny, by the way, because even though I didn't understand much and he didn't really know English, we kind of did have a conversation. It was kind of a mixture of broken Japanese and broken English. I personally stayed in hostels because I think those are a good accommodation for people who are alone, and I think that it might be inconvenient for some people, so if you're alone you can choose that too. Also, traveling alone might just prove to be a challenge for you, and then you can prove to yourself and everyone else that you can do it. Especially because you have to plan everything, you have to make everything work out. It helps you be a bit more independent, and it also might give you self-esteem boost. But of course there are downsides to traveling alone too, and the most important thing I think is safety. So if you want to travel alone, always make sure that at least there are people who know when you go and where you go exactly. Because if you end up getting into trouble, hopefully you won't, then at least people know that they need to look for you. Also, since I'm a girl and I was traveling alone, I always try to make sure that the accommodation that I was choosing was safe. So I was looking at rooms that are only for women, and I always try to, like look at the pictures so it's not in a shady part of the town. I think safety is the most important thing. I personally stayed at hostels during my travels, and to me it was a really interesting experience. Like, there was a time, the hostel itself was really good, but one of the other girls who was in the same room, she was snoring so loudly that I thought that she was going to choke. I don't know why she was making that kind of sound, but let's just say I didn't really sleep that night. Hostels are also good for backpackers, moving from one place to another. I think it's more convenient. If you're on a budget, then overnight buses might seem like a good idea. You can save on accommodation and you can travel at the same time, so you can also save some time. But if you don't sleep well usually, then I don't really advise you to use overnight buses, at least not 2 times in a row. I know it might look like a good idea, but you will end up being really tired and then you just won't enjoy your trip. One difficulty might be is that if you want to take pictures. Of course you can make selfies, but if you want to take pictures from far away, then you will have to ask for someone to take them for you. Because of course you will not have friends with you who can take it for you. But I think people usually are happy to take them for you if you ask them. Or you can also use a selfie stick. At the end of the day, the most important thing is for you to enjoy your trip, whether you're alone or with a group. But if you go to a different country and you end up not having enough friends to go on a trip with you, then please just don't waste time, because you might end up skipping some places that you wanted to visit, simply because you don't have enough time. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please subscribe and hit the like button. It would really help me out. See you in the next video! It was not really the idea of going to a different country alone or even being alone. It's